You get to choose how you feel in these situations. You get to choose how you respond in these moments. And for some reason, everything just clicked. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Actually Good Coffee podcast. I had to change the name because of copyright reasons. That was my old podcast. Actually Good Coffee is my new one. The show where we talk about all things coffee related, all while drinking a cup of coffee. We're going to continue talking about these little, entrepreneurial ideas. I kind of hate using that word, but it is what it is. These little entrepreneurial episodes, just so I can give you a little bit more background on how I got to where I'm at in this business. And then eventually we will actually start talking about coffee. I'm also not drinking a cup of coffee right now. I tasted about 8 different Brazilian origins this morning. We're trying to find a new component for our house blends, and I'm fired up for this episode, if you haven't been able to tell already. This past week, we sold about 632 pounds of coffee total. If we're looking at the previous year, the same week, the third week of April, we sold 581 pounds. So more than last year, averaging still more this year than we did previously. It's always a good thing, always makes me happy. The topic of today's episode, doing what you can. So what do I mean by that? Well, I don't mean doing things that only fit your capacity that you're able to do. What I mean is doing things that you can do right now or as soon as possible, rather than focusing on this end goal that seems incredibly unrealistic. It's breaking that down, doing the things you can do right now to take steps towards that end goal, and also changing different aspects of your life to give you that advantage. So we're just going to get right into it. And with number 1, change your environment. When I was growing up, I had this idea that if I had to change different aspects of my life in order to give me a better chance at doing these things that were my little passion projects, I was giving up. And I think all of you know that that is not true. And even if it's the thing that you love doing the most, you could always use a little bit of help, no matter in what way that comes. So for example, when I was actually getting my loan, my SBA loan, when I was looking to buy this business, I was working in the restaurant industry. This became a full-time job for about 9 months for me. So I had to cut back my hours. I had to start working later shifts at night. So I had all day to speak with the bank and do whatever they needed me to do. Just always be on call no matter what. And a lot of these days were actually filled with just playing pickleball, some days for 12 hours. I don't play anymore, but at the time it was this thing that just got my mind off of it. I could play till I was literally exhausted, and some days I would play from the morning until it got dark outside. So I would just do these things, and a lot of time when you're dealing with the bank, especially when you're trying to get a loan, what I found was every time I would send them a piece of information or the forms that they needed, sometimes I wouldn't hear back for 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 days with just no response whatsoever. So I would have to find these things that would just physically exhaust me, so I just wouldn't go insane from it. And as soon as I would check my phone after, every single game that I would play, I would see they emailed me back, and I would race home, get whatever forms they need, get it back to them as quickly as possible. So again, this idea of changing your environment, changing your lifestyle so that you can best accomplish whatever goal that you were trying to do. Also with these loans, there was about 3 separate times, I think, that they told me that they couldn't give me the loan. They just couldn't do it anymore. They didn't feel confident. I didn't have enough experience in the industry, and I couldn't do it. So I had to be on the phone with these guys for hours at a time. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't work in this restaurant industry. That's why I love the restaurant industry so much, and I'll always be grateful for what Porta did for me, because I don't know if there's any other job that will allow you to have as flexible of a schedule as working at a waiter or a bartender or a barback or a busser would do. So that's number 1. Number 2 is to start with the little things. I'm sure you guys have all heard those social media spokespeople that talk about waking up early in the morning, doing your bed or making your bed, doing your laundry, taking the cold showers, going on a diet. It's going to turn you into a millionaire. I don't think it's that simple. I know a lot of times that that conversation gets pretty murky, but I do think there is some truth to those things. And the reason I think that is because nowadays things move so quickly. It's progressively getting faster, and people are constantly trying to keep up. And I think what comes with that is that they have to set aside a lot of these mundane daily activities. I also think it can contribute a lot to this sense of anxiety that people feel, where they just have no control over their lives. And I think by doing these little stupid tasks consistently, you can get that confidence back that you actually do have control over certain things. It might seem like a task, which it is, but I bet if you are feeling that sense of anxiety, try doing these things consistently. Do it for a week or even a month if you can stomach it, and just see if it'll help. I bet it will, and if it doesn't, you're really not gonna lose out on much besides having a better or a cleaner place to live. Number 3, disguise the boring tasks with something that you enjoy. Part of the reason why I started this podcast is because when I do billing, or when I do back-end accounting, or any sort of scheduling or journaling, whatever I need to do, any computer work, I don't want to do it. Some days there are days where it feels like it's the last thing that I want to do, but I always have to do it no matter what. So this podcast, going over my numbers before every single episode, forces me to do the accounting and do this back-end billing with all my clients so that I have the numbers ready for the podcast every single week. It sounds stupid. It sounds like I am running a mile to get back to the starting line, but it works. And you know what? It works for me, and it sounds stupid talking about this, but if you ever are dealing with something that might seem very difficult to you, or just you can't seem to just get out of bed in the morning to do it, try creating this setup where it's I don't know if it's like Stockholm syndrome, but this method where by doing this thing that you do not want to do, you reward yourself with something that will make you feel fulfilled at the end of the day. I don't mean go out and get wasted after you go to work every single day, but just maybe have an activity or a hobby that you do that you only do if you know that you really laid it all out at work, or you really put some effort and time into whatever passion project that you were working on. Just to kind of sum this whole thing up, actually, when I was getting my SBA loan, my sister passed away from cancer pretty soon before this was going on. This was obviously pretty devastating, but the point that I'm trying to make is that this was a situation that I remember where I was upset, and I felt like I couldn't really talk to anyone about it. And I remember actually getting a call from my uncle at the time, and he called me and he said, he just was asking how I was doing. I was talking. I said, I'm obviously upset. And he's like, why? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, why are you upset? And I said, because my sister's dead. And he said, yeah. I said, that's why I'm upset. You asshole. And he was like, why do you feel sad about that? I was like, because that's how I feel. Like, that's how you feel when somebody dies. He said, that's not true. I said, what do you mean that's not true? And he said, you get to choose how you feel in these situations. You get to choose how you respond in these moments. And for some reason, everything just clicked for me. I don't know what it was, but I'm not even sure if this is the point that he was trying to make, but for me, it made so much sense. And I finally made this decision where I'm not going to let any situation, no matter how tragic, affect how I'm going to handle any other area in my life, unless it can light some sort of fire under my ass to get things done for what I'm trying to do. And I really think that when you can understand this idea that even if it's something terrible that happens to you, you still can use that as motivation to get to where you want in your life. things will start to click a little bit more and you will start to look at things a little bit differently. I go into some work weeks and I know it's going to suck. I tell myself it's going to suck. And I say, this week is going to be terrible and I'm going to have no fun doing it. And for whatever reason, the work is so much easier to do. It's setting these expectations low, but keeping your hopes high throughout the entire week. So I don't want to drag on this idea too much. Hopefully you guys understand the point that I'm trying to make here. And hopefully, again, you can take this away and apply it to your life. And I will see you guys very soon.